Thank you, Paul, for inviting me to talk. Kia ora koutou. I'm just going to talk quite briefly about how Christchurch Art Gallery has published our collection's exhibition history, so our artworks exhibition history on our website using Vernon's exhibition activity file. So a little bit of background about where we were before we embarked on this project. We have about 7,000 object strong artwork collection which we've managed through Vernon since the late 1990s. And we publish almost all of our collection online from Vernon, the web messenger functionality, which sends the basic catalogue details and an image through to our website. We've not got a digitised exhibition history of those artworks, and there's nothing relating to exhibition history on the website. We do have on our website CMS, a database of exhibition names, dates and titles. So you can see an example of one there on screen, our collection 19th and 20th century New Zealand art. The collection's available online, and a listing of exhibitions with their names, dates and a brief bio about the exhibition is available online. But the interaction between those two things has not been digitised to date and is not available to our audience on our website. So if you wanted to find out what the exhibition history of an artwork was, you had to rely on a combination of movement or location records in Vernon, maybe a bit of digging around keyword searches on our website, if you were lucky, a dig into the paper, object or exhibition files, and a good pinch of institutional knowledge. And if you were one of our visitors, that would probably involve making a visit to the library to see our librarian, Tim Jones, or even a visit to the curatorial team. So our project brief sort of comes in three parts, and we've done steps 1 and 2. The first part of it, my colleague Tim Jones, he had identified for some time that we could bring our exhibitions listings that existed in our website through into Vernon, and we could link them to our artworks. I, for my part, had worked as a registrar and had been using the Vernon activities files in acquisition, proposal, condition and treatment, so I had a good inkling of what it could do for us. And then we were presented with a great opportunity of this PACE internship program in late 2020, and Emma Williams joined us, and that really kick-started the project for us. We gave Emma an initial brief of researching that data from our website, researching our analog files of exhibition history, documentation in our library, pulling that in with some more recent digital Excel sheets that we had of working lists for exhibitions, and seeing what she could do in establishing really a methodology to undertake that as a wider process, to digitize that in its entirety. The second part of the project would be to give access to that data to our online audiences, getting it digitized into Vernon and outputting it to our website. And the third part of the project would be, how could we use that as a system in a more functional way across our whole exhibitions team? So the initial work that Emma did, she started collating that exhibition from our exhibitions database, which was effectively the website. We took out some of the core data, and she then dug in a more in-depth basis to about 20 exhibitions and went through those archive files in the library, went through our sort of digital archive and found the appropriate resources to see if we could indeed do what we hoped we could do, which was confidently identify which artworks were exhibited in which exhibitions. And she started to work on a methodology. At the same time, we contacted Paul and the team at Vernon, and we sort of gave them our overall brief, and that was really useful because we were able to think right from the get-go, I think, about how best to structure the data as we started to put it together in a massive spreadsheet, and been thinking about that end goal right from the start. So this was a little snapshot of that rather awful spreadsheet, where we've got some pretty basic data here on the left about the title and the dates of the exhibition. And then towards that right-hand side of the sheet is where we started to identify on an exhibition-by-exhibition basis which was object number 1, 2, 3, 4, which were the artworks that were actually shown in that exhibition. We linked by system ID, which I'm really glad we did, rather than by a session number. And again, that was one of the sort of helpful tips really from the Vernon team that led us in that direction. We did a bit of testing with what we'd come up with so far. So as we were going along and Emma was continuing her research, we tested by starting to work on an import method, those configurations, and were able to look at that batch of 20 sample exhibitions to see how, once we'd got it into Vernon, we were able to sort of cross-reference with the location and movement records, and to see if this quality, this integrity of data was actually looking positive, and indeed it was. And the other great thing was the initial work was a lot quicker and more effective, in fact, than we'd imagined. We were exceptionally fortunate that we had the person with the perfect aptitude to this task in Emma. She had great attention to detail, an analytical mind, and great commitment, as well as excellent Excel skills, and quickly got to grips with Vernon. And another thing that I think worked for us really well was the nature of the project. Emma sat with Tim, I think, for a few hours, most mornings a week, and was able to pose quickly to Tim any questions that required his sort of institutional knowledge to resolve. And so the momentum of the project was really successful. We'd kind of dove in at the deep end when we knew she could work with us in late 2020, and then we sort of had to pedal really fast to keep up with her, as it was. That kind of helped us drive the project forwards and get it done. And the other thing that I think we were very glad we did was we documented. Every time we sat down and had a meeting and had a go at an import method and a configuration, I sort of typed it up afterwards, because Tim and I found that even 6 days after we'd met previously, we had already forgotten what we decided. So I certainly wouldn't be able to be giving this presentation to you now, 6 months later, without having done that. And yes, at the time we found that we were like goldfish when it came to remembering what we'd even discussed the day before. So that was really important. So the great news has been that we've been able to digitize the entire collection's exhibition history, as far as we knew that, and import it into Vernon. So this is just a little overview of how we structured that import. We had, from that master Excel of all the information, we split it up into 3 imports finally. It was, for us, this was a really quite complex import, and something that we hadn't attempted to do as an institution, I don't think, well, I certainly hadn't done before. And Vernon's support was really critical, so thank you. The first import was to this exhibition concept file, which effectively at that point we were just capturing the title. So we had an import for that. That enabled us to export the concept IDs, which we incorporated into the exhibition venue file. So into that we were bringing the concept ID, the institution, which was us, the dates, and our own unique number for those exhibitions. So that had its own XML and configuration. And then because of the way we worked, it suited us to do that, bringing in the actual associated artworks as a third import. It meant that we could get steps 1 and 2 over and done with, and then continue our research on that final part of the puzzle and do those in manageable batches. So for that, we again exported the exhibition venue ID to match the final step 3 import on. We then added the object IDs, and as I said, we used system IDs rather than our accession numbers, which was a smart move. And we also had a little user authority field in there just for us to mark this one's complete, and it enabled us to keep track of the project. So that was the final import. Many of you might be familiar with how that exhibition activity looks in Vernon, but for those that aren't, this is an artwork with its associated management activity window, and we can see the various activities associated with this work by Evelyn Page. But you can see here the exhibition venue record shows that it's on display in our current Te Wheke exhibition. And likewise, if you're looking at that in Vernon from the exhibition venue record, you can see the list of artworks. It's quite a big exhibition with 100 objects in it. And there is, excuse me, there's that work, Governor's Bay by Evelyn Page. The sort of step 2 of this project then is how we were going to share this data with our audiences, with our online audiences. So we use the web messenger functionality of Vernon to do that. from the exhibition venue file. Paul helped us set up a XML which has a variety of data, but the name of the exhibition, the number of the exhibition, the dates, the curator, the location. That goes through the web messenger system and to the back end of our website. We don't collect information such as our shop product or our public programs, events, etc. on Vernon. So that middle step of being on there on the back end of the website enables us to let our web editor make those connections for us, add additional information. And also we've built in certain criteria that need to be met before that's then actually published to the front end. And that is, there's a manual component of just it's the right time to share this exhibition with the public, and also some built-in functionality whereby if an exhibition is not yet open, the open date is not yet happened, then it won't show the associated artworks. That's a sort of keep that kind of big surprise or reveal kind of aspect of the exhibition. So that's what the back end of the website looks like, and that's just the exhibition listings on the front end. And now if you scroll down to the bottom of one of our web exhibition listings, you can see this section where it says collection works in this exhibition, and you've got like a sort of horizontal scroll on the site where you can scroll through all the objects in that exhibition, and there on the right is just how that works in the mobile browser. So here's a pretty old exhibition where previously we would have had, you know, one or two photos of what that would have looked like in a previous incarnation of the gallery. But right here below we've got a really big selection of artworks. Not all of them, of course, have images that were in show on display in that exhibition. And of course you can click through to any artwork and see its listing in the collections online. And so there's that nice sort of two-way relationship between the two. So to finish, I just wanted to talk about, I suppose, the last part of this project for us, which is how we go forward in the future and use this in a wider way, not just as a getting our exhibitions online perspective. So some of the things that we're thinking about are how we could use it to sort of follow the journey of an exhibition through its various stages, from proposal through to being on display and completed. Also, I know that the tasks aspect from working with acquisition proposals is really powerful, so I know we could configure that to our needs and start working with that. And I'm quite excited about the fact that I think this could have a really good application for us in terms of generating documents for things like captions, labels, etc., to sort of cut down on error and work duplication. I know it's going to be a whole team approach, and it's going to be quite a change for us because at the moment we've got a dedicated group of Vernon users, which I would say is library and registrars, and then we've got curators who they actually really enjoy that sort of web browser interface, but so it's going to require a bit of change management to get there. But yes, I would be really interested to hear how other institutions use exhibitions activities, how many colleagues are involved, which teams use it well, how do you use the functionality, do you use tasks, procedural status, quick reports, which reports and documents do you produce, what's the best thing about it for you, or what would you do differently? I think that'd be really useful for us in our journey to understand. And that's me, thank you.
Great, thanks Louisa. It sounds like there's an opportunity there for perhaps a follow-up Zoom meeting of people that are actively using exhibitions and venues within Vernon for them to share what different features they're using, how they're onboarding the people in their team, what members of their teams are involved in different aspects of that Vernon data management.
I can see a comment's just come in there about recording exhibitions that don't contain works recorded in Vernon. That's definitely another Vernon activities project that's on the horizon. So we don't capture those temporary incoming loans at all in Vernon at the moment, and it's something that I know our head registrar Gina is very keen to do as well. And so to use those loan functionalities and in turn start actually bringing in those works into Vernon. And then we could treat them in exactly the same way, which would be great.
Yeah, so certainly there are several sites that are actively cataloguing inward loans so that they can fully describe the exhibitions that take place at their venues. A couple that come to mind are the Art Gallery of New South Wales and National Gallery of Victoria. So that's primarily relying on the procedural status of the object record to clearly mark that it's an inward loan, and generally recording much less information. You're just trying to capture the basic identification details of that item with its image and who legally owns it for when you need to return it.
Yeah. And I think we want to make sure that we've got a process which shares the kind of burden of some of that extra work with the various teams, so we can anticipate perhaps engaging curators to enter the basic work details of their loans straight into the system.
This project's also a great one for demonstrating the web messenger module that we have within Vernon. So that's the tool where you can selectively push data whenever it's changed to another application. In the case of Christchurch Art Gallery, that's the object data, the person data for the artists, and now the exhibitions. But there's sites that push data from other files as well. And so that might go to a third-party content management system like this case, or it could go to another digital asset management system, or a completely different kind of product that still needs collection information.
I was interested in how, Weezer, you mapped the objects in the XML configuration. Like if you had 200 objects, were you, in your configuration, did you have object 1 mapped to object 2? Did you do it that way, or?
Yes, and we had a little analytical look at which was the exhibition with the most objects, and we had, I think, 10 that had more than 70 objects in them. So we decided to do a configuration which had individual rows, object 1, object 2, object 3, down to 70 max, and that captured sort of 95% of our exhibitions. And then for those ones that had more than that, we split it up and did multiple imports using that same 70 configuration. So that was the little tricky workaround there. Hats off to our intern Emma, having a young, committed, innovative, and eager to show herself, young intern was a real asset to the project, because I think where perhaps Tim and I might have given up as well, we had to soldier on.
A lot of time. It would have taken a lot of time just typing in that stuff. Yeah. Well done.
It was also great, Louisa, to see your extensive use of other activities. So in the example you posted, we can see you using the acquisition proposal, condition report, treatment file, so building up that much bigger, more complex picture of all of the things that happen to objects during their lifetime at the museum.
Yeah, that's great. That I think the from a research perspective, the curators really enjoy sort of seeing that layers of data building up as well, that history. Yeah.
That's great. All right. I think that's all of the questions we've got at that point. So thank you very much, Louisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.